Hello everyone, Rick here, and this video is, well, several things really. A review of the Doctor Who book The Night, the Fool and the Dead, as well as a look at the lore and character implications. Therefore there will be mild spoilers ahead, as I want to talk on some points and inform, but I don't want to ruin the book for those who wish to get it themselves. I deliberated about making this video for a while, as quite simply this book is part of an ongoing series called the Timelord Victorious, and therefore only one segment of the overall lore concerning the cross-media story. Plus, from the information released up to the book's launch, we already had quite a clear description of events that this tale would involve. Nevertheless, we do get some interesting apocryphal lore from this book, so I want to talk about it. Last point, it is a book and therefore I don't really have slides to illustrate my points. I really need to set up a decent camera so that I have something to show for times like this, but until that's sorted, here are some appropriate images instead. I won't be going into all of the details concerning the story here for two reasons. One, it's still a new book and I don't want to undermine the hard work by narrating it verbatim, but also because it's only one tile in this mosaic and we don't have the full picture yet, which is annoying as 2020 has made it rather difficult to accumulate all of those pieces, but here we are. Lengthy disclaimers and preamble out of the way, let's jump in. The book features the exploits of the 10th Doctor immediately after the waters of Mars, but before he answers the summons of Ood Sigma to confront the return of the Master. Obviously, this is number 10 in his most vulnerable frame of mind, having jumped back into his TARDIS with a defiant no at his oncoming fate. He breaks all Time Lord rules by taking the TARDIS back to the Dark Ages of the universe. I've already done a video concerning this era of creation, but to use a metaphor I could imagine cropping up in Who, it's a time when the universe wasn't done cooking yet. The laws of physics are still a little soft and the rules of life and death are there, just not quite settled yet. Basically, it's an era from even before the Time Lords, before Gallifrey was even that advanced. In classic Who, it was also the time when magic still existed and the Pythian matriarchy maintained control over Gallifrey. Contemporary Who introduced the notion of the timeless child and Gallifreyans being Shobogans, a term also borrowed from older lore, but neither of these are mentioned here, so this story is either ignoring all of that, or it's set way before it. You know I mentioned that life and death weren't settled yet? Well, that's kind of the whole reason the Doctor jumped back in time as far as he dared into the Dark Ages, to the point where a majority of life in the universe was immortal. Accidents could still happen, people could still be killed, but lifespans were unlimited all across the cosmos. The reason given for his excursion into the deep past is simply because he's still reliving the final moments of Adelaide Brooke. You know, that thing she did that I can't say on YouTube, where she pops her own clogs to protect the integrity of time. The TARDIS objected to him coming here, but post-Time War, there's also no one to stop him. As very little is known about this time, he's in completely uncharted territory, but has arrived at the tail end of this period of eternal life in the universe. The arrival of the Cortura is imminent. This species are described as veiled and robed in black, like a widow's outfit almost, with crystalline hands and a mass of writhing tentacles for legs. They can appear and disappear rather easily, and are rather strong psychics. They communicate telepathically and seem to be able to form a connection between those who have been judged as well as raise the dead. Beneath the veil are large bulbous eyes and stagnant flesh, almost as if it were rotten. Lovely creatures by all accounts. They've been travelling around the universe, sentencing different species to various lifespans, from thousands of years to months, depending on some cryptic criteria that only they are privy to. We know they can perceive a species' entire timeline, and they use that to determine their worth, and that they both recognise the Doctor as he's not native to this time and therefore beyond their scope, so their judgments have no effect on him. Naturally, this whole lifespan thing is new to the inhabitants of this era, and many are panicking while some attempt to fight or bargain with the Cortura to no avail. the necrotic species maintains this complex algorithm that seems to be dictating their plan of action across the universe. The reason for it has not yet been explored, although any sentient who gazes upon the inscriptions of their reasoning finds their mind being enthralled by it, possibly to their eternal detriment. What begins as the Doctor simply trying to save a single person from the Cultura, because of course the world he's in is the next one to be judged, soon delves into a plan to protect certain people from the Cultura's gift of death. But then those Time Lord victorious insecurities of his raise their head, and he begins a descent into undoing death across a universal scale by halting it, seemingly at the source. This book suggests that mortal lifespans are being introduced artificially, and the Doctor begins to adopt the reasoning of the inhabitants of the era, that the natural law should be immortality, and that it's the Cultura introducing death that's the aberration. It sees the Doctor being corrupted in the way that most befits his character, as seen in Waters of Mars. It's his desire to help and protect others, mixing with his pain at loss, opening the door to the possibility of such heinous actions. But it's his developing arrogance that he knows what's best, combined with his own sense of mortality, that makes him step through it. In his mind, who else is there? All the while it's fueled by centuries of frustration at not being able to help, and grief that he's not good at dealing with, compounding the issues. He hates goodbyes after all, and loves to run away. In The Night, the Fool and the Dead, Ten is portrayed pretty well in my opinion. The descriptors of him bouncing around between points of interest, and the way dialogue is written, in that way that trails off on tangents before the Doctor snaps back to the topic at hand, is very reminiscent of lines in the show. I could easily picture Tennant delivering them, although I think it's the darker moments that lack the gravitas that he could bring. The book is a rather easy read. I finished it in just over 3 hours, and it's easily accessible to younger audiences. One interesting point of interest... I like Brian. He's an Ood assassin who ended up back in the Dark Ages before the Ood even existed due to time travel. His story is in another tale, I'm assuming, but he is a perfect companion for the Doctor to allow for this story to unfold. Brian the Ood has a plain name, but no morals. He's not evil, he's just impartial and impassive. He's an assassin through and will kill without regret, unless reined in. Sure, to begin with, the Doctor chides him, but nonetheless, Brian's not going to say no to the Doctor or tell him when things are going too far. Companions have served not only to keep the weary traveller company, but to rein him in when he starts going off the rails or loses sight of his morality, especially in modern post-Time War Who. Surrounding him with characters like Brian, as well as those others that have their own selfish motivations, takes away Ten's brakes and allows the slide into the Time Lord Victorious to continue, a name which he has adopted once again towards the end of the book. As said, it's only part 1 of the book series, and on top of that there's already plot threads at the beginning and the end that clearly tie into other points of this cross-media narrative. I'll continue to try to follow these as they launch and see if, by the end of it all, we'll see how well this experiment pays off. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you again for another one in the future, or the distant past, because time travel. I've been Rick, and I'll see myself out.